Have you ever had to earn back trust after losing it? How did you go about this? Have you ever restored trust in someone after it was lost? What are the building blocks of regaining trust after betrayal in a relationship? In this first episode of Season 2, Imam Magid and I discover Yusuf's brothers' stark difference in tone and content when they are hoping to regain credibility with their father as compared to their deception at the beginning of the story. We also discuss the deep connection between beautiful patience, sabrun jamil, and maintaining hope. This is Quran Conversations, the podcast for anyone who wishes to unlock the meaning and healing power of the Quran. I'm your host, Dalia Mogahed, an author, researcher, and a student of the Quran. I'll be in conversation with one of my dearest teachers, Imam Magid, a scholar of the Quran and longtime family counselor and congregational leader. If you're enjoying this podcast, please review it on your podcasting platform. It helps us more than you know. Quran Conversations is sponsored by Fawakih, an online learning platform for Quranic Arabic, which I myself use. Start your journey in unlocking the language of the Quran. Go to fawakih.org. We hope this podcast encourages your own reflective journey with the Quran. Make sure to stay until the end to hear this week's reflection prompt. For more spiritual insights, follow me on Instagram at Dalia Mogahed. Without further ado, let's get to the episode. Assalamu alaikum. This is Dalia Mogahed, and I'm joined by my teacher, Sheikh Muhammad Magid, and we are continuing to discuss Surah Yusuf. We ended last time with ayah 79, and we were about to start ayah 80. But we wanted to go back to number 76 to discuss a point that we had not gotten to. And I want to turn it now to Imam Magid to take us through that.
Thank you so much, Sister Dalia. It's great to be with you in this journey of contemplating, reflecting on the Quran. The point I want to make in the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the end of the verse of 76, نرفع درجات من نشاء وفوق كل ذي علم عليم.
We raise the rank of whoever we will above everyone who has knowledge. There is the one who is all-knowing.
Yeah, I just want to comment on 2 points here, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate people as He wishes. نرفع درجات من نشاء. But because Arabic language is very rich language, if you say نرفع درجات من نشاء instead of the tanween, درجات من نشاء, that means a person already in rank and Allah raised them in bigger rank and greater rank. Or نرفع درجات من نشاء, we elevate people to different rank. A person must think about the rank of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how Allah rank people. And the ranking with Allah is the ranking that we need to look for. If Allah elevate us in the maqam of awliya, those who are close to Him, or muhsinin, or siddiqeen, or muttaqeen, or mu'mineen, that's the maqam that we seek, that is station that we seek. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talk about Yusuf alayhi salam huna, in this verse, is talking about elevating people in the rank of ihsan, of muhsinin. There's a rank in the dunya. This is not the rank that Allah considered. Because the rank of dunya, that Allah, قل اللهم مالك الملك تؤتي الملك من تشاء وتنزع الملك من تشاء وتعز من تشاء وتذل من تشاء. The power is in the hand of Allah. He give it to whomever He wishes, take it from whomever He wishes. But the ranking that we need to think about is the ranking with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Ibn Ata says, if you want to know your maqam, your station with Allah, see what He have you been able to do or what your heart is connected to. That's your maqam with Allah. Now, the portion of فوق كل ذي علم عليم, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he said this refers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because he mentioned hadith in a gathering, and a man said, وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ, above anyone of knowledge, there's someone knowledgeable than them. And he said, this is Allah. Allah is Al-Alim. The other scholars saying that include everybody, which is the humility of knowledge. That no matter how much I know and you know, that we have to know that somebody else may have more wisdom than us. Somebody might know more than us. What that is calling us is to seek knowledge. No matter how much we know, that we have always to be in this journey of learning and seeking more and better understanding, whether for the Islam, the Quran, and the Book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or in life in general. Arrogant people never learn. That's why we say that the mimani la yata'allaman, two types of mim never learned. Mustahi or mustakbir, a person shy from asking, and an arrogant person. But I just want to remind ourselves of that.
Thank you so much, Imam Magid. And it's interesting that this is how the ayah that it's talking about, the strategy that Yusuf had to employ, alayhi salam, of putting the goblet in his brother's bag and searching in his brother's bag and so forth. And it reminds us that everything he did was from a place of humility and surrender to Allah. He never acted out of his own, abuse of power or desire to show off to his brothers that he now has power and they don't. It was always from a place of incredible humility, knowing who is truly in charge.
Now we go to this, back to the verses that now Yusuf alayhi salam have, Allah guided him, because he said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that is Allah allowed that for Yusuf alayhi salam to be with his brother. And now his brother was begging him to take another person in his place of Binyamin, and he said, no, ma'adallah, seek refuge by Allah to do something that is not acceptable. And now you go to the ayah where they have a meeting on themselves, what they're going to do with this. That's right. What we're going to read now and discuss.
Exactly. And if I can ask you to please start reading, that would be wonderful. Ayah 80.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فلما استيأسوا منه خلصوا نجيا قال كبيرهم ألم تعلموا أن أباكم قد أخذ عليكم موثقا من الله ومن قبل ما فرطتم في يوسف فلن أبرح الأرض حتى يأذن لي أبي أو يحكم الله لي وهو خير الحاكمين.
When they lost hope of persuading him, they withdrew to confer with each other. The eldest of them said, do you not remember that your father took a solemn pledge from you in the name of God? And before that, you failed in your duty with regard to Joseph, or Yusuf alayhi salam. I will not leave this land until my father gives me leave, or God decides for me. He is the best decider, or he is the best judge, وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الْحَاكِمِينَ.
No.
And I'm very interested in your thoughts about this ayah and about this voice of, partial remorse or perhaps even blame of his other brothers, even though he participated, of the oldest brother. How are we to understand this position that he's taking now?
It's very interesting that they acknowledged the wrong have done to Yusuf alayhi salam. And they said, we have done wrong. This is the first time you see them have remorse.
Yes.
About Yusuf alayhi salam. And they tried to Yusuf alayhi salam to convince him to let go of his brother or their brother, Binyamin, but he refused.
Yeah.
And then when they realized that, okay, this is not going to happen, let us see what we're going to do about this. Now, their elder brother said, don't you realize that our father have a pledge from us and an oath that we will bring him? And do you remember what we did to Yusuf? The only things that he said is ma farrattum. You didn't say ma farratna. You should have said together. But the blame came now. You guys, what are you doing? Remember what you did to Yusuf? You were with them.
Yeah.
You know? Now, in this remorse, he said to them, as if like he didn't do it with them. And now he said, I'm gonna really take this very seriously. I will not leave the land until my father gave me permission to do so. And Allah decide whatever He will decide for me. That general remorse, but also seemed to me this time have taken the oath, had given his father very seriously.
Yeah.
And people sometimes grow and mature in their thinking, but the only thing that he did not take responsibility. Give them a guilt trip about what they have done with Yusuf alayhi salam, but took responsibility of not going back to his father without Binyamin.
Yeah, he's definitely working through some very complicated emotions. Part of it is remorse, but also part of it is the human tendency to rewrite the narrative,
Mm-hmm.
whereby he's distancing himself, he's putting blame on others, he's, you did this to Yusuf alayhi salam when obviously he was a part of it and he could have stopped it. He could have pushed harder to, not do all of this to Yusuf alayhi salam. And we discussed this early on when we talked about the dissenting voice. There was a voice that said, no, don't kill him.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps that was his voice. He said, let's de-escalate a little bit. Let's not go completely out of, something so irreversible as murdering him, but let's just throw him out and somebody will come and take him. So I think it's interesting to reflect on all of us, all of our human tendencies to remember an incident where we are blameless or where we rewrite it so that we didn't really commit the mistake that we're blaming others for. And that part of remorse is taking responsibility.
Yes.
So he's a very complicated character in that he is trying to right a wrong by staying in Egypt and wanting to sort of protect his brother that he didn't protect before. But at the same time, not taking full responsibility for being just as responsible, just as guilty as his brothers in the horrific act that they all committed together.
Yeah, that's the benefit of the doubt we've given him, that he's staying there to protect his brother. But could be other interpretation, avoiding responsibility. He's sending his brother to face his father, and he's staying back there in Egypt. Tell me what he's gonna say. Go and talk to him about it, and so forth. He doesn't want to be in that conversation with his father.
Yeah,
that
that's
could be
another way to interpret it for sure.
Yeah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ارجعوا إلى أبيكم فقولوا يا أبانا إن ابنك سرق وما شهدنا إلا بما علمنا وما كنا للغيب حافظين. So go back to your father and say, your son stole. We can only tell you what we saw. How could we guard against the unforeseen?
ارجعوا إلى أبيكم. It's very interesting. He said ارجعوا إلى أبانا.
Right.
ارجعوا إلى أبيكم. Go back to your father. And يقول يا أبانا إن ابنك سرق وما شهدنا إلا بما علمنا. يعني he telling them, I'm not going to do this. You go and tell him. It's too difficult for me to tell him this time.
Mm-hmm.
We came with Yusuf. We told him that would happen and it was not true. He's not going to believe me in this one because I didn't speak the truth before. And therefore, I want you to do this in my behalf. You go and tell him that. And tell him that your son have committed theft. وما شهدنا إلا بما علمنا. يعني we just witnessed this. وما كنا للغيب حافظين. It means that we did not anticipate. We didn't know the unseen. للغيب حافظين. You remember their father said, إلا يحاط بكم.
Right.
This time, he said to them, maybe my absence will be a proof that this has happened. Go and tell him what happened and tell him that we were only witness to it. We had nothing to do with it. We did not set him up. We didn't entrap him. This has not come from us. This is what we have witnessed. And the next ayah, actually, they try to defend themselves by saying we have witnesses, that they have witnessed this other than us.
It's very interesting to see the difference in how they are speaking. So they've spoken to their father on several occasions during this story. The first one is when they're persuading their father to let Yusuf come with them. The second one is when they're telling their father the lie about what happened. The third time we hear them, discussing with their father is about going back and bringing Binyamin with them to get more provisions.
Yeah.
And now this is the fourth time where they have to make a case to their father about what's going on. And how their language, how their approach keeps evolving. From the first two times were lies, the second two times they were telling the truth.
Yeah.
And how people speak so differently when they're telling the truth versus when they're lying.
Yeah.
I found that very interesting.
Yeah.
The defensiveness, the idea is like, you wouldn't believe us even if we were telling the truth.
Yeah.
And the story is so ridiculous, so hard to believe, and then convoluted. There was a wolf and he did this, and here's this, shirt, and it's bloody, but it hasn't been touched by, it's not ripped. And yet when they're telling the truth, and we're going to hear this more in the next ayah, it's like, ask this person. It's an invitation to get more information. You don't believe me? Ask this other person.
Yeah.
And that really shows us that truth wants sunshine. It wants transparency. It wants witnesses. It wants public scrutiny. Lies want everything to be hush-hush. Everything to be like, don't question me. How dare you ask? Gaslighting you with crazy stories that you can't question. You can't ask follow-up questions. And I think in family dynamics, this really comes out. Who is asking for more transparency, openness? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about what's going on in our family. Let's discuss this dynamic. And who's saying no, hush, hush. We're not going to talk about anything, and let's sweep everything under the rug.
Truth set you free.
Yeah.
Truth set you free. It's interesting that they realized that their father would not accept them as a witness.
Right.
Only because they said, وما شهدنا إلا بما علمنا. We witness what we have, what we come to know. That's all we know. And then they realize, no. We have to tell him that to ask other people than us, because they lost their credibility.
Yeah.
And that one, in my marriage counseling and family counseling, when trust's been shattered,
Mm-hmm.
I told them, you're going to work hard to rebuild it.
Right.
You have to rebuild the trust. And in order to build the trust, you have transparency.
Mm.
If somebody cheated on the spouse or somebody that have something done wrong, then I told them, listen, you have now, in order to rebuild the trust, you have to have transparency, to be very open, to be examined, to be checked, other witnesses and so forth. For they realize that credibility have been questioned, and that there's no trust between them and their father. They have, in order to rebuild the trust, they have to expose themselves and to ask them for more people to witness. Imagine if this issue of them lie about Yusuf have not taken place.
Right.
The father might not have asked. You don't need to ask somebody else. But they know that they don't have the credibility, don't have the trust. That's why they have to bring other witnesses.
And that's a very good point about when you've betrayed trust, when you've lied, when you've betrayed. It's on you to rebuild that trust by inviting transparency. Not by saying, well, don't you trust me? Why should I have to do this? No, rebuilding trust means it's on you to earn back something very precious that has been shattered. And it means you want to invite transparency. You're like, here's my phone. I'm taking off the password, whatever. Like, you're very,
Exactly.
very open.
Yes.
That's how you do it. You don't just get it back because you say you want it.
Mm-hmm. You have to work for it.
You have to work for it. You have to earn it back. Imam Magid, can you read number 82, please?
واسأل القرية التي كنا فيها والعير التي أقبلنا فيها وإنا لصادقون.
Ask in the town where we have been. Ask the people of the caravan we traveled with. We are telling the truth. And it's like the way that it's phrased in the Arabic. وَإِنَّا with a shadda, la, emphasis of a lam, صادقون. وَإِنَّا لَصَادِقُونَ. They are really, really pressing the point. We are telling you the truth.
Yeah.
This is someone trying to re-earn trust.
The comparison that he had said earlier is very important. What you said, that they said, وَلَوْ كُنَّا صَادِقِينَ, when they lied.
Yes.
Even if we spoke the truth. He didn't say that. They didn't say that, وَلَوْ كُنَّا صَادِقِينَ. He said, وَإِنَّا لَصَادِقُونَ. For sure we're speaking the truth. Because the first one was a lie that was very shaky. You can hear the shaking voice.
Yes.
He is very affirming. وَإِنَّا لَصَادِقُونَ. Now, there's something very interesting when they said, وَاسْأَلِ الْقَرْيَةَ الَّتِي كُنَّا فِيهَا. Ask the town where that we come from. And al-'ir here, it meant the caravan.
Right.
This is the very beautiful way in Arabic to indicate that everybody in the caravan could be asked. Therefore, they said, ask the people of the town and ask the caravan that came back with us, that they would tell you exactly what have happened in that city, or what happened in that incident. But the father, with all of that, he doesn't trust them anymore.
Right.
He doesn't trust them. And they have not convinced him this time even that they're speaking the truth.
Right.
Because the trust was shattered.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قال بل سولت لكم أنفسكم أمرا فصبر جميل عسى الله أن يأتيني بهم جميعا إنه هو العليم الحكيم. Their father said, "No, your souls have prompted you to do wrong, but it is best to be patient. May God bring all of them back to me. He alone is the all-knowing, the all-wise." Subhanallah, he says, he responds very similarly to the way he responded when they came back and said Yusuf had been eaten by a wolf.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he says, your souls have prompted you to do wrong. بل سولت لكم أنفسكم أمرا. You know, your souls, your nufus allowed you to act in this way. And he says the same thing, فصبر جميل. This is his response when he's faced with enormous loss. But yet, subhanallah, I really just want to point out, this is the second time that he is faced with loss. Not a small loss, but the enormity of losing a child, now a second time. And many people, when they're watching the suffering, the enormous loss that we are all witnessing in Palestine and Gaza and Lebanon and all these places, Sudan and the Congo, Haiti, they say, you know, they lose their faith in Allah's mercy. Say, where is Allah now? Where is His mercy with all of this? And yet, Yaqub's, the very next thing he says after expressing disapproval of them because they now lost a second brother, and asking for sabr, is he has this good opinion of Allah.
Yeah.
He's not angry with Allah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, there's two aspects in this verse. You know, in the beginning of the surah, Yaqub alayhi salam said to Yusuf, don't tell your story to your brother.
Right.
Because Shaytan is an enemy of human being. Shaytan
Right.
is an adu mubin. And later you're going to see Yusuf alayhi salam and say, Shaytan, come with me, my brother. But the father told them, you have responsibility not to listen to Shaytan. That's why he said, Anfusukum. You know, take responsibility that whatever you have done, it is something come from you. Your own soul must have tempted you to do something evil. Because the difference between nafs and shaitan, we said that before, in the beginning of the surah, the Sheikh al-Sha'rawi made a very nice definition or defining what is nafs or shaitan. He says that if a shaitan whisper in the beginning, but when a person does it, if does it once, it's shaitan. If a person plot and plan and so forth, the rest is the nafs. Shaitan suggests the idea, the planning, the execution is the nafs. Okay? Because shaitan whisper only, you waswas. But the human being do the planning. They capture the shaitan whispering and they turn it to an idea, to a plan, and then to an action. That's why he said to Anfusukum Amra, that he want them to have soul searching. Is that really the truth? Or you have plot another plot? Or you have another, your soul must have tempted you second time to do something evil. That's one thing. The second point, the idea of sabr jameel. It's a beautiful thing in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called those virtues like صبر جميل تسيح بإحسان. What is the beauty of patience? How patience can be beautiful, and what does beautiful patience look like?
Yeah.
It's a patient that you show your pain and you suffering, and you talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about it. But you don't object Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decree. He does not turn you to be an angry person. Like, whatever calamity that hit us make us angry against innocent people, people around, the loved one. Because sometimes when a person goes into a difficult time, they get the frustration on their loved one. And we have seen that many times. Because a person maybe have difficult time in their job, come home and hurt other people. You have to have sabr, jameel. For they say sabr jameel, sabr. There's no complaint, a lot of complaint to people about it, but complain to Allah. For sabrun jameel. Then he said, Asa Allahu an ya'tiyani bihim jamia. Sabr jameel, beautiful, patient perseverance, always connected to hope.
Yes.
You cannot have beautiful patience without hope. Because what the sabr is? Sabr is time plus outcome. You how long and what the outcome. And here the outcome he is seeking, Asallahu ya'tini bihim jami'a. Perhaps may Allah bring them, all of them, to me. That's the sabr al-jameel. Innahu huwa al-alim al-hakim. Allah, all-knowing, all-wise. He knows where they are, and He knows when that may happen, that family reunion. Might not take place even in the dunya. My family reunion take place in akhirah, between parents and their children. But Yaqub alayhi salam had this beautiful patience with hope. Therefore, our brothers and sisters who are listening to us, as we go through a difficult time in your life, whether it's sickness, whether loss of loved one, whether it could be any kind of calamity and difficulty, we must believe that Allah compensates. We must believe that would become a time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would show us how much this patient, the sabr, in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah said in sabrun ajran bighayri hisab. Allah gives those who are patient reward with no measurement. Like there's endless measurement. Like you cannot, even the angel cannot write how much reward Allah will give to the person who is patient. And here, I just, Sister Dalia, you mentioned something about losing children. I know in my own community that people have lost their children. Sometimes they lost them for accident, and a child about to go to college, and they lost their loved one. And they told me the pain, the vacuum that child have put have in their heart, nothing can fill it.
Yeah.
But I want to tell them, inshallah, it's a promise of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah will build you a home, a house, a palace in paradise, called the house or the palace of hamd, or praise. Make sure that with our patient persevering in this life to make a dua for them, for our children, Allah will unite us with our children that we lost in this dunya in high place in paradise. It is very important for us to believe that. Now, how many mothers and fathers are lost their children in Gaza, lost their children in Lebanon, lost their children in Sudan? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would compensate those people. I have no doubt. And I have seen the beautiful patient sabr of people of Gaza. I have not seen, like in this modern time, just look to those mothers who are saying, whatever Allah takes from me, I accept. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept with him, I accept. And one of the mothers said to her son, Inshallah, ashubak fil Jannah. I will see you in paradise. Those are the people that still walking among us, walking in this earth.
Right.
Believing that it will not go to waste. But this is what this ayah, beautiful ayah, for sabrun jameel, asallahu ya'tini bihim jami'a.
I think one of the most beautiful aspects of this is it tells you where Sabrun Jamil comes from. It is rooted in two things: hope that perhaps Allah will bring them both back to me. So this idea of keeping your hope alive and rooting that hope in an understanding of who Allah is. Because he says, Innahu huwa al-alimul hakim. So these two, attributes of Allah are very specific and they're chosen for a reason. He knows, al-alim, he is the all-knowing and the all-wise. And what does that mean? It means he knows where they are. He also knows the state of my heart. He knows the state of my grief. He knows what I've been through. And he is, after knowing, he is Al-Hakim. So all of this is within his wisdom. He's not assuming a negative, intention in any way. He's not saying this is his punishment, this is his wrath, this is him leaving me. He's saying all of this is happening within his pain, within his grief, his agony. He's still saying, I know that this is Allah seeing me and doing what is within his wisdom. And that's where Sabrun Jamil comes from.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
In what it isn't, so that is what is Sabrun Jamil, is having this assumption of Allah, this good opinion of Allah, and knowing that our grief and our loss is within Allah's knowledge and within Allah's wisdom, that He sees us. We're not alone. We are seen by Him. That's what it is. That's Sabrun Jamil. What it is not is having no grief or pretending everything's fine or this, toxic positivity of, I have no sadness because I have faith. No. Grief is part of the human condition.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't contradict sabr. And we hear that in the very next ayah. Imam Magid, would you like to read it?
Sure. وتولى عنهم وقال يا أسف على يوسف وابيضت عيناه من الحزن فهو كظيم.
And he turned away from them, saying, Alas for Yusuf. His eyes went white with grief, and he was filled with sorrow. Subhanallah. This is so important. He expressed his grief, and this is not a contradiction of sabr. They're not in contradiction. He has both. And I just recently heard about a study where women who were in bad marriages and did not express anything about it were 4 times as likely to die as women in bad marriages who did express their grief. So they're both in bad marriages. One expressed the grief and the feelings about how it was like, and the other group didn't. And the ones that didn't, that pent it up, that didn't express their grief, were 4 times as likely to die. So he is modeling for us, as he has throughout the surah, how to have a healthy management of our pain, how to process our pain in a healthy manner.
This is something that I always talk to family and individuals who lost loved one, and people telling them that don't cry.
Right.
It is contradicting being patient.
Yes.
And sometimes it's very annoying when we are at the cemetery and somebody cry as they bury their loved one. Somebody come behind them and tap on their shoulder. If another sister tap on her shoulder, or brother, tell them, have patience. And I told them, why do you think he doesn't have patience? That person didn't say anything, just was crying. And the
Right.
Rasul cried when he lost Ibrahim alayhi salam. He cried when he stood by the grave of his mother. He cried when he saw Hamza radiallahu anhu killed. He cried, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and they heard him crying. This idea of being tough, don't cry, especially for men, or don't cry because you taken away your hasanat, your good deeds, or you cry, then your loved one will be punished because you're crying. All of this misunderstanding,
Yeah.
absolutely misunderstanding. If Yaqub alayhi salam was a prophet of Allah, and Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam himself cried, don't tell people don't cry. Crying is a sign of mercy. Rasul said, Ya Rasulullah, even you cry? He said, yes, this is a mercy Allah have put in people's hearts. Tears is expression of the mercy of Allah. Do not tell people not to cry. But grieving could be very intense. And every human being grieve in their own way. And some people, that means I don't want to talk to people for a few days. I want to have my space. Other people want people around them. Other people, they maybe they go through this moment of withdrawal a little bit socially. They want to have, to be left alone. We have to offer people grief counseling, absolutely, no doubt. But at the same time, that as we do so, don't be judgmental. That's why people who are not professional in counseling, please don't give counseling. Do not.
Right.
Stay away from it. And here, Yaqub alayhi salam actually lost his sight.
Right.
He cried so much. وَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ فَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ, that he was so grieving about his son, and he's come to the point that he lost his sight. Losing the sight, that means that the intensity of the sadness of Yaqub alayhi salam. But look what he said before. As you said, that the sabrun jameel, asallahu ya'tiyani bihim jami'a, you said that the sabr jameel has hope. We said that. And here, the emotional aspect of him as a human being, his spiritual state is strong. He believes in having hope in Allah. His emotional state is very devastating.
Yeah.
And this emotional state that he cried until he lost his sight. Therefore, do not ask people to put their emotional aside.
Right.
You have to separate between emotional state and a spiritual state. A person could be spiritually very strong, but emotionally devastated. But that's why, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked to us in the Quran about Maryam alayhi salam, said, ليتني مت قبل هذا وكنت نسيا منسيا. I wish I was dead before this, I was forgotten. Or Musa alayhi salam, فأوجز في نفسي خيفة موسى. Musa was scared alayhi salam, afraid. And so many other, and Yunus alayhi salam, he ran away, got frustrated with his people. All of this is an emotional state of prophets. Therefore, we should not judge people, their faith or their iman, because of their emotional state.
One thing I just wanted to say before we close about that point, Imam Magid, is a sheikh in Australia, some people already might know, is Bilal Asad, and he is someone that, a wonderful scholar who lost his brother and his son in a car accident. It was absolutely tragic. So when he talks about Surah Yusuf, which he's, I've heard him do in the Yaqeen Quran 30 for 30, he did a beautiful, beautiful reflection on it. And I recently heard a short talk where he talks about grief and how to feel the grief and not succumb to it. And I felt like his balanced view was very useful because he's speaking not just in theory, he's speaking from a great deal of experience
Wow.
And he has shared, how he would go into sujood and just cry for like 45 minutes,
Wow.
over his loss. But what he talks about, he said something very beautiful. He said, you don't get over the grief. You just have to move while carrying it.
That
It,
is really beautiful.
it was so well put. You don't sit and just wallow in it forever. That's not the way of the mu'min.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what Yaqub alayhi salam is modeling here. He is carrying the grief while still maintaining and holding on to hope and a good opinion of Allah. This is beautiful patience. These two seemingly contradictory states at the exact same time. That is how we were created as humans. We cry, and we cry so much that we go blind in his case, and we carry a good opinion of Allah, and we carry hope. And that was what Sheikh Bilal Asad was saying in this video, is you don't wallow in it, you don't succumb to it, you don't just surrender to your grief and do nothing. You carry it and you move forward.
That's beautiful, and support system is very important. People around us. Yeah.
Yes, it is. So thank you so much, Imam Magid, and we'll go ahead and end here and start with the next section next week. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Share this episode with others who may be interested in the meaning of the Quran. Also, we love hearing from our listeners. Tell us your reflections at Quran Conversation, our Instagram page. We love to see these, and we read every single one. Finally, we hope this podcast encourages your own reflective journey with the Quran. This week's reflection prompt is: what does this surah bring up for you regarding maintaining a positive opinion of Allah, even when things are hard? Until next time, keep reflecting on the Quran. Assalamu alaikum.